There are a total of 6 documentary formats within documentary filmmaking today. I'll take you through the 6 types of formats with examples. I do not own any footage used within this video, and all dedication goes to the talented filmmakers, and the links to their videos are posted in the description below. Poetic documentaries first appeared in the 1920s and was a completely different take on the traditional codes and conventions of documentary filmmaking, for example, narrators and presenters. But instead, the filmmakers of the format use cutaways of the environment or people along with clips of nature to tell a specific story. As an example, the documentary Gravity by Eduardo Avento, which is currently playing on the screen, uses the poetic codes conventions that are often found within this form of documentary, such as the lack of a presenter and only uses clips of everyday things to create the story within this factual documentary as we follow gravity itself through this factual piece. A common piano track is used throughout the documentary to create a common outlook on what gravity is capable of. This type of documentary often uses direct contact between the narrator and the audience to allow the information to be understood by the audience. Expository documentaries are created to expose the subject matters that are used within the documentary. Other codes and conventions within expository filmmaking are often the use of authoritative commentary throughout the documentary and also expose. Also, an expository documentary often puts across a strong argument or point of view for or against the subject matter within the documentary piece. These films often use rhetoric means throughout the documentary to convince the audience to feel a certain way about the subject matter. My example of expository documentary is In Between from Rolf Steenman. This documentary follows the story of the last animal that has survived the ice age and its almost inevitable extinction because of global warming. In this documentary, they follow codes and conventions, such as the use of voiceover, the way the information is laid out to make the audience feel sorry for the poor animals. This is also achieved by the use of rhetoric methods along with the use of direct contact to us, the audience. A documentary or TV show that follows the observational format often follows a subject or person throughout their day-to-day lives. Observational documentaries observe what happens within their lives, and often the observational documentaries use as little intervention as possible because the filmmakers often want to document the realism within the subject matters they have chosen. An example of this format is Ashtray, an observational documentary by Green Nova Productions. This documentary follows the experience of living on the street by two homeless people. These filmmakers do not intervene with events of a documentary in any way and do not influence anything filmed within their documentary. Participatory documentaries often follow the presenter or filmmaker as they participate in the subjects within the documentary. Often tied to more independent documentary filmmakers, participatory often allows filmmakers to show what goes on in certain subjects. Along with the popularity of survival factual documentary, participatory documentaries on the rise because of its mainstream popularity. My example for participatory is Rod Gilbert's work experience. This documentary takes a comedian, Rod Gilbert, and makes him take work experience from jobs like Binman all the way up to RF Palette. Rod has fully participated in each episode of this documentary series. This type of documentary format focuses entirely on the realism and quality of the product being made. The documentary shows the process of creating the documentary. This happens because the filmmakers want to show that this media project is a representation of what documentaries see the world as. Reflexes documentaries try to get the audience to think about the authenticity of documentaries by being highly skeptical of realism within documentary modes. My example for reflexive is the documentary Bruno. Although Bruno is made to make the audience laugh, it uses real facts and figures to portray across an aspect of documented fact. While Sacha Baron Cohen plays the only fictional character within this documentary, Bruno captures the essence of a documentary while using a humorous fictional character to make the audience laugh. Bruno allows this audience to think on similarities to normal documentaries and allows them to question the normal documentaries' authenticities. This type of documentary is similar to the participatory documentary because they both speak about truth and from their own perspective. The main difference is that this form of documentary often looks at the experiences of the filmmakers and their opinions on the subject matter. This mode is seen to be more subjective and one-sided as the documentary follows one person's opinions. An example of this type of documentary is Ed Stafford's Walking the Amazon, where within the documentary we follow Stafford across the Amazon while learning about his personality and his opinions through his visual log throughout the documentary. Realism is where real action takes place with no staged scenes or scripts. Everything is natural. Most real-life documentaries use a form of realism for the people and events shown throughout the documentary. This is mostly used for the personality or behavior of the subject within this factual piece. This realistic view could be tampered or altered within the edited process by the creative will of the filmmakers themselves. But this goes into dramatic realism and not realism documentaries. Dramatization is where a script has been edited in order to make something more dramatic. For example, the news is a heavy user of this format. News uses words like murder, breaking news, and other more dramatic words